Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the second lesson in the Thuluth script. In today's lesson we are going to look into the letter Ba. Few notes before we start. The first one would be that generally in calligraphy and in this script we divide moves into 3/3. So for example, in today's lesson we are going to see that the letter Ba, we're going to move downward. For example, this is the first move would be, the second one would have a move that goes down, then it will sort of adjust itself, finally it will go into a curve. So it helps to think of moves in divisions, not to think of them as one move. This way you will get better results, and when you write, your brain will sort of work as in a step way, like it will just see those steps and it will follow them every time you write the letter. The second note would be with regards to the shapes. So for letter Ba, although we're going to learn the singular one first, we still have several shapes when it comes at the start of the word or at the middle of the word or at the end. So for example, being in the start of the word, it has 10 shapes, for example, and each one of those 10 shapes has their own case, and therefore what I want you to focus on is to write down each one of these cases and why do we use them. And basically what I'm doing now is just showing you the difference and the different types of them, so that when we actually start working on them, you would be aware that we have all these variations with regards to letter Ba. So these are all come at the beginning of a word, depending on the letter that follows them. Then we have the ones that come in connected. So what I want you to focus on is that when we learn something, you have to write it down and make notes out of it, because what happened in previous texts is that people would learn the script but then forget what letter shape we use in which case. So just to clear that one out and get it out of the way and just emphasize on the idea that you should know these cases and they're not laid out or sort of made without a reason. There is a reason for them. Now, with regards to the letter Ba, we're going to start with the singular one. And the first move in that would be a simple stroke that is close to a number 1 in Arabic. So this first move is 1.5 points of height, as we can see here. And it has this inclination of around half a point or a quarter of a point. So you're going to hold the pen this angle from this area, and you're going to move downward with a curve that will result into this tusk shape, let's say. So it'll give you this nice shape that would look like this. This is the first move, 1.5 points, looking nice, inclined, pretty. Now the second move would come from here, but I want you to focus on something with regards to the second move. So this is the inside shape that with the second move will give me this sort of an angular connection. Meanwhile on the outside the shape would look more of a curve. It's like the Diwani, if you were to go back and look into the connected two steps in the letter Alif. So for this one, before you start, this is where the pen would sort of sit. Below this pen you will need 1 point that will show you how high the letter would be from the writing line. So this is a very important point. So what would you do is basically go down from here, and to govern your movement you will need the second skill, the important one, which is 6 points of width inside the letter. and 6. Below the third point, put another point which will govern your drop. Now, what you are going to do is move left, pointing downward for 3 points. Moving downward for 3 points. And this is basically why we put this one and this one, so that you would know that you are moving in downward enough. Now, with regards back to this point where we talked about the curvature, so you might have to go back here and fix this angle because you want it to look curvy outside, angular inside. So we've reached to this point and we've got a nice downward move down here. What will happen now is that we will adjust this downward move, not by curving up, but more of a slight curvature this way. This is a very important move. It gives you full shape of the letter. And you have to be careful doing it. And your mind will start to think, all right, 1 is going down, 2, I need to start adjusting my angle, 3 would be the curvature that we are going to look into now. So this is 2, 3 would be again a circular movement that sort of joins these points right here. So what you will do basically is that you will bring this move, continue moving upward with this circle move, and stop here. So as you can see, we stop below the top line here by ½ a point. This is the curvature that we have, and you need to keep an eye on the smooth, curvy shape of it. It's different from other scripts, so you have to give it this massive sort of circular shape in it. Now, as you can see here, I moved upward earlier, so this way it helps you to know that, all right, after these 4 points, I'm gonna stop, think, and actually go back and do this circular move. So this would be the bat by itself. It's really pretty, really neat. There's another shape for it, which would be more open at the beginning. And for that one, again, we're going to just use the same baseline here. We're going to start with the move that represents the calf, but since you haven't learned calf yet, it will not make sense for you. We will choose the same height, which is the 1 point here. And with this one, what will happen is that we are going to put the pen here, move upward a bit, then move down, as you can see. Now, from here, we're going to add our 6 points of width. 3, 4, 5, and 6. And the same rule with regards to the curvature that we have for the letter down below. So this is where it will be. And given that we've got our 1 point down here, this one, this will show us basically how much we're going to move downward. And here we could add our other 1 point that will govern our letter. So the same thing that we did to the one on the right, we basically move downward for those 3 points. And here you will have this slight sort of curve shape. So the move here would be curving up, then curving down all the way down to here. Again, 3 points. Start thinking about the second move, which is flattening it out. Finally, think about the curvature that you are going to have at the end, like this. This should be more to the left, just like this. So, this is the top part of the bat. The lower part would be coming back to here. And below this 1 point, which was the starting point, you're going to add another point. And this is where this shape will drop down to. So this shape on the inside would look something like this. It will be the first curve that you made for the moving upward. And then you will have another one that will join and come back just like this. So to make this, you could change the pen, or you could use the same pen that you're writing with, but you will have to change the angle you're holding it, just like this. That will give you a thin line, and you stop it down here. So as you can see, it is a very smooth wing shape, let's say. And it is kind of tricky to write, but what I want you to do is put the pen first like this, move slightly downward, but then curve backward like this. So this will give you a sort of a sharp start, but then it will give you this smooth curvature that would give you this beautiful shape. It will take time for you to master it, but it's fine. Now what I meant by letter calf, you see this part, if you continue this shape down here, you will have the cap for the letter calf in Thuluth. So keep that in mind, we're going to need it in the calf lesson. Again, if you took angles here, you will have the curvature here, the other curvature here. The same thing goes for the letter ba, the normal one. So that's the shape of the letter ba when it comes by itself. It is a very long letter. 6 points are not a small sort of length or a short length to be dealing with. What we'll do next is connect the ba to the alif that we've learnt in the previous lesson. So we are going to use our 1.5 point start, which is this one. 1.5 with a nice curvature in it. The same thing goes for the moving to this side and the 1 point of drop here. But what will happen here is that you're actually gonna move curvier and think about the alif right here that will go up. And you would continue the letter going upwards. Now, here you would have 1 point between them. They shouldn't be too close or too far from each other. Again, with regards to the inside, looks like this. The outside looks curvier. And this is something we're going to look into in the future, which is fixing these angles, because sometimes it's impossible to get right angles, right sort of shapes for the letters. And this would continue all the way up to the alif shape that we talked about in the previous lesson, which is sort of going out for 0.5 point and going upward for 7 points, or whatever the height you want for it. So this is the ba by itself. You should practice it a lot, and we're going to look into the sort of how you're going to practice this letter. The first thing that I need to sort of bring your attention to, which is after you finish with a pen, as you can see, I'm going to move to a different pen. You immediately clean it. You just need a glass of water and just a nice piece of tissue or whatever you could find around, and simply clean it. The reason why we do that is that if we left the pen aside and we came back to practice more, we will find that the ink left over on it sort of made this extra layer that would be kind of annoying, and it will prevent the ink from acting the right way it should act, or the pen would write properly. So always clean your tools after writing. So what you will do, and I sort of imagine that most of us don't have big pens back home. So you'll bring a normal pen, which would be 3mm, 2mm, the one that you have, and you are going to make lines so that you would practice. And although I haven't showed this sort of, I'm not sure if I've ever talked about this, the way that you would do your practices is kind of, it's persistent. It is a matter of doing it to learn, not doing it to get it out of the way. Because you're not learning this for a test or an exam or just to achieve a certain level and never come back to it. No, this is something that you're gonna keep doing for yourself for assumingly the rest of your life. So you should do it properly. For example, based on today's lesson, the letter ba, what would be expected of you is to make lines on a nice paper after you write down the notes that you need, the moves that you need, and you would come to this and you would basically practice this way. You would put your skill and you would start properly doing the letter. So this is the first move, making notes, keeping your mind focused. And here, since I'm going to start here, this will actually drop 1 point. So my letter would drop below the line. This move I will keep in mind for the next letter. So I am going to come back here. I'm going to add my 6 points of width so that I know how far I need to go to the left. And I'm going to start moving downwards, straightening it up, then curving it back. And stopping here. Looks good, not perfect. What I need to do now is to bring the letter up. Now what you could do actually is measure the distance here. So this is the top part of the letter. 1, 2, 3, kind of 3 points. So what am I going to do is do 1, 2, 3, hit my top part, then take the 1.5 that I've got here and the 1 point that I've got here for me to actually do the letter on the line instead of it being dropping below the line. Going down, hitting the line, curving back up and doing it. You see here I made it longer, which was the first move, and it's quite visible. So what am I going to do is again put back my scale for the width. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and continue practicing. You will keep doing this to fill the whole page. The more you do it, the better it gets. Now, if you feel that, again, you are dropping below the line, grab your 3 points and go back and adjust it. As you can see, this angle should look more like this one, this side of the letter. So we could fix this with a cutter. And you keep doing the letters by themselves. Make sure to be comfortable. You can't quit on a letter if you feel that you've messed it up. You could also try doing the other one. I'm going to do it on top of this one. This is too thick, I need it to be thinner. And this is basically how you practice. You need a nice straight line, and you would write the letter more than one time. And for you could start adding other letters. For example, you want to write the word ab. So you are going to need 7 points of height for the letter alif. And you're going to write the letter ba. And what you should focus on while writing letters, like if the ink didn't work, like for example here the ink was too much and it sort of made the letter look thicker, it's okay. You could fix this later, but you need to focus on the moves to be right. This one, for example, this is a wrong move. So you have to keep an eye on this one rather than keeping an eye on the ink and how it behaves. You could write, and for the bar, the dot here would be down here. You could write bab. This should be a bit more up. And we're going to use the other bar for this one. And you would write these abab, keep writing it to practice and to get your hand more sort of familiar and used to the letter and the move, so that your brain muscle would literally memorize it, and it will not matter what pen you use, what tool you use, you will get the same letter because you already know how it should look like and how the moves should be. Now, some people might say, oh, you've got fancy pens and this is why you're getting good letters. To a certain degree, it is true. But again, it's more of your level of skill, because we've learnt how to make those pens, and it shouldn't be an excuse that you can't write a proper letter because the pen you are using is different from the ones that I use. For example, here I've got the normal bamboo, and it's one of the ones that we made on the channel, and it is bigger, so the letters here would be bigger. But I wanted to show you that it is down to the idea that you have the same shape with any tool you use to make the pen with. And I have to be honest with you here, the bamboo pens are by far the best and the most comfortable to work with when it comes to Arabic calligraphy. Because in a way it is the first tool that was made for this form of art. Now, if you want to be more detailed about these things, if you looked here, you will find that the first part would be thinner than the second part, this curvature, and it's because the angle of the pen here, which is quite shallow in a way or another, is different than the angle here, which is thick, and it's curved because of the curve, because you are curving the pen. So that is fine. Again, as I said, the pen should not be an excuse for you to get bad letters, as long as you know how to cut it, or you are 100% sure that it is cut in the right way, so that when you write with it, it will not be working against you. It will be actually the main factor that helps you produce beautiful letters. Again, for example, here, as you can see, this curvature that I've got here isn't neat. So I did it again to get a neater curve at the end. Again, you should keep practicing so that all your letters would look nice. And once for example, you've done a line of practice, you must train your eye to spot good letters. For example, you go back to the first one. This is obviously wrong because it's below the line. So moving on to the next one, the end isn't nice, so I'm going to scratch on this part. This is too straight. Might as well just not take this one. You would start to look for letters that look nice and you are satisfied with, so that you would know that you can produce the letter and be confident about it. So what you should do for this week's homework, you should do the practice the way I did it. You would write ab, bab, tab, these words, because in the next few lessons it will be also letter ba, but we are going to look into the different connections of it. We will look into connecting bats to the bat itself, and I might as well just leave the big ones, these ones, because those are related to whatever follows them. So for example, this we use with letters such as ha and mim. Here we have ones for the letter ha, for letter ya. So we might as well just stick to the letters that we have with the letters that we know how to write. There's also another point relating to the end shape here. So this is one shape, which is the 6 points width. There's another one that is 12 points that we're going to look into in the future, and that one would be like a long sort of 12-point shape that would look like this. This should be the other way around. So yeah, we do have these long ones in the letter ba and letter nun in Thuluth, and they basically are used for adding elongations and long strokes to letters when needed. Again, you would clean your pen, and let's say that the pens you have, they are so dirty and you find it a bit tricky to clean them with water. You could get hand sanitizer. I mean, we've got these things laying around a lot everywhere due to COVID. That's too much. You would take some of this and kind of, or you could just soak a tissue with it, and it will work perfectly that way. And you would start actually thoroughly cleaning it. And the good thing about this, so for example, here I've got some blue ink that I didn't know that actually existed on the pen. You would clean it thoroughly, and the good thing about a hand sanitizer is that unlike water, it does not stay in the pen for long, because it's sort of alcoholic substance and it evaporates with time. So you would clean your pen, make it nice and shiny. It will not clean like, it will not be brand new, and unless it was metallic, because sort of wood and reed suck some ink. Anyway, this is for today's lesson. I hope you enjoyed it. Practice these letters. This is the method of practice. And for example, the letter Alif, these are the practices that I did in one case. So yeah, you have to do a good amount of them. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Like, share and subscribe to the channel if you want to learn more about Arabic calligraphy. And as usual, stay safe out there. This has been Ammar Awaudi, and have a lovely day, evening or night. Goodbye.